Good morning, Auburn High School. Thanks for tuning in to Tiger TV Daily. I'm Malia Holstake.
And I'm Bernard Thomas. Malia, what are the announcements for today?
Tickets for this year's homecoming dance are on sale now. Tickets are $10 and can be purchased from Miss Carol or Miss Lovelady during Tiger Time in room 1321. All early release and late arrival students need to come to the front desk to pick up their early release/late arrival stickers. Please come during the block that you are supposed to leave and arrive to pick this up, not during your normal class times. The Auburn University Honors Serves program will be once again offering free ACT test prep to all interested Auburn High School students. Sessions will be held on Wednesdays from 3:45 to 5 p.m. in room 1105. The first session will begin this Wednesday, September 4th. Remember, the After School Success program takes place every Monday through Friday from 3:45 to 5:15 in room 1139. DECA will hold its first meeting on Thursday, September 12th during the first half of Tiger Time in room 1306. Any student who is planning to take, or has taken a business course is invited to join. Attention sophomores and juniors. The PSAT will be administered at Auburn High School on Saturday, October 19th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Auburn High School cafeteria. Students interested in testing should make payments in the amount of $25 via MySchoolBucks. All payments should be made before 4 p.m. on September 18th. Once you have paid to take the PSAT, please stop by Mr. Tyndall's office before school, during Tiger Time, or after school to pick up a copy of the PSAT Student Test Prep Book. There will be a boys golf interest meeting on September 18th at 6 p.m. in the multimedia room at Auburn Junior High School. Any students interested in being a peer tutor during Tiger Time should pick up an application outside of Office 1246. This is a great way to receive service hours while at school. If you have any questions, please see Ms. Kay Williams during Tiger Time or after school. Tryouts for the AHS girls golf team will be held October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd after school. They will last from 4:30 until around 7 p.m. Interested players must attend a mandatory pre-tryout meeting on Thursday, September 26th in room 1311 at Auburn High School during Tiger Time or after school at 5:15. To be eligible, students must have a GHIN number, an established handicap, and an updated physical the past year. Physics Club will hold their first meeting the second half of Tiger Time on Monday, September 16th in room 1234. This is a fun hands-on club where you can learn about cool physics stuff without the lab write-ups. Seniors, remember to head to your Tiger Connect first half of Tiger Time to vote for your class representatives. Let's head over to Gabby with today's feature story.
So I was a senior in college, and I was getting ready to go to my first class. And on television, I think it had happened slightly before I woke up. It was all over the news. The first building had been hit, but had not fallen yet. So there was smoke, but there was no utter destruction at that point. And America felt like a more innocent place then. And so even then we had this glimmer of hope, like maybe it was an accident, and against all odds, right? But we didn't have the confirmation that it was a terrorist act at that early point. So hours went by. I was at school, and I can remember the guy who told me that not only had the second building been hit, but that both had fallen. And at that point, it was obviously clear that we were at war, that terrorism was in effect, and a new layer of fear forever struck America.
On the day of 9/11, I was a senior in high school. I was walking in the old high school at 405 South Main Road. I was walking, I guess, southbound through the courtyard, and as we passed through the glass tunnel, they had a TV stand showing the plane that had crashed into the building. And I stood there and I sat there for a minute. I was like, man, I cannot believe this is really happening. And then from that day on, we watched the majority of it. In second block, third block, fourth block, that's all we did was watch CNN.
The day of 9/11, I was a senior in high school at Centennial High School in Roswell, Georgia. That day, I remember being in first block when news came of an airplane crashing in. It really defined that entire day. I can tell you almost minute by minute what happened. But I really remember uniquely that first moment thinking it was an accident, that somehow a plane had crashed. But by the end of that first period, it was distinctly clear that something wrong was going on. And it just filled the air the rest of the day. Second block, we continued to watch it. Our teacher didn't even acknowledge us as we came into the classroom, but we saw the TV on. We knew immediately by his body language that we needed to sit down and just be aware of what was going on. And it was during that time period that we watched the towers fall. We watched this plane hit the Pentagon. And one thing I always remember about that too is the amount of the unknown, not knowing the full scope of what was going on. Even on the news media, there were so many rumors, and it just filled me with terror. Being Roswell, Georgia, just north of Atlanta, wondering what in Atlanta might be targeted. After that, our principal came on the intercom and said, all TVs, all computers, radios, turn off. And teachers tried to make their best effort to lead class for the remainder of the day, but it felt so false. Everything felt so fake the remainder of the day, trying to go through reading poetry or doing a worksheet out of the textbook, knowing that this horror was unfolding elsewhere and us trying to remain normal. One of the ironic parts about that day is after school, all sports were canceled, minus our cross country. Our cross country coach was a lieutenant colonel in the Marines, and we had to make sure we were still running, and he gave us one of those speeches that we were all clapping and proud to be an American about. But I went home after that, and church services were being held across the country that day, services for prayer, mourning. And so I got home, and my family was gone. But on the kitchen table sat a balloon and a cake. And next to it was an envelope. And it was my early acceptance into Auburn University. And I'll always remember receiving that early acceptance the day of 9/11. Just very much an anticlimactic moment, realizing that my own acceptance into a college was minimal compared to the human experience happening throughout the United States that day.
My mom worked for Redstone Arsenal, and that particular day, she was allowed to leave work early, obviously, because of what happened, and so she came and picked me up early from elementary school.
I was in the second grade. I really don't remember much. I just remember that day the teachers, they were kind of panicky, running in the hallways, kind of whispering, and then at lunch, I do remember they put it on the TV screen. So we got to see what happened as we ate. I still didn't know everything that was happening. I was kind of confused, but now in age, I do understand what was happening.
Well, actually, when 9/11 occurred, I was a faculty member at the United States Military Academy at West Point, which is about 45 miles north of New York City, and it sits right along the Hudson River. So when it happened, I was actually at work, and but we kind of all, kind of ceased work and went up to the high ground, and you could actually see the smoke billowing from the towers that had been hit. So it's pretty kind of hit close to home because they also used the Hudson River as a navigating method in order to get to New York City. So just the thought of the planes flying over West Point itself, it's pretty kind of a little bit eerie.
Unfortunately, no, I did not. I don't have no family members in New York.
I recognized our neighbor, Mr. Tony, had a yellow kind of ribbon on his front tree. And yellow ribbon at that time began to note someone lost. And my mom informed me that Mr. Tony, just the nicest guy, his brother had been a caterer in the trade center. That just that morning he had a job in the trade center. Didn't work in the trade center, but had a catering job. And for a couple of weeks, Mr. Tony had held out hope that his brother would be found. And yet the realization for all of us was that looking at the rubble, knowing what had happened, that there was that sadness that there's not going to be survivors in those ongoing weeks. But always trying to be uplifting for Mr. Tony as well. Asking, I hope everything was going to be great, and trying to be optimistic to meet his optimism. But he did unfortunately lose his brother.
I I don't believe so. Like I said, I was younger. I was only like 7, 8. But to my knowledge, no, I did not lose anyone.
No, didn't lose anyone on that day. But obviously, the war on terror, I've lost, soldiers that I've served with, and also cadets that I taught during the time that I was at West Point as well.
No, I did not lose anyone, but again, we all lost a sense of innocence that I don't know if America will get back. You guys have grown up in an era where terrorism exists. We had our own fears and struggles for sure. That was a particularly new one to us that has lasted to this day. Just the sense that something could happen anytime, anywhere. So.
I did not.
I think in terms of the immediacy of the event, we did not lose our principal in terms of him losing his life, but he was called up to defend the Atlanta airport. He was a member of the Georgia National Guard. And so we didn't have our principal for the remainder of that school year. And how you think about 9/11, there were so many direct and indirect impacts. I had a cousin who was severely wounded in the war in Iraq. My sister's boyfriend took his own life from PTSD. He had served several tours in Iraq. Certainly Iraq is an indirect effect of 9/11, but for personal, it's hard to communicate to students what going to an airport used to be like before 9/11, the ease of getting on an airplane, and now you have your 2-hour rule, and you got to take your shoes off, and you're essentially undressing and then dressing back again in airport security. And I think the biggest thing about 9/11 is the sense of distrust. Or not distrust, but perhaps an unease around other people. There was a sense of trust and ease in large crowds, and nowadays you don't necessarily have that.
I would just say since 9/11, I would think of cherish every moment you have. Life is short. No one knew what was happening that day. Honestly, it was like a week after my birthday, so I just woke up and it was just another day for me. So for sure, I'm going to cherish every moment that I have.
Directly, I guess as a society, is just the whole thing that, as far as the terrorism that happened, that would be directly, but it really just has an effect.
Again, just the losses of the people that you've served with, and you think about their families, and so it's a loss of a husband, it's a loss of a father, so it's, and you yourself, you feel fortunate, that something like that didn't happen to you, so, yeah, so it's definitely had an impact on my life, for sure.
I mean, directly, just little tangible things like flying used to be a simpler process, and it's a more complex process, longer waiting lines, things like that. Emotionally, I mean, like we've said, like the Colonel said earlier, just that families were involved, people were involved, and there were emotions that that piled onto all of this that have forever flavored the way that we see the world and shaded the way we see the world now.
Well, for years after that happened, they were very afraid that somebody was going to bomb Redstone Arsenal because of what happened. So my mom was pretty paranoid about that.
In the immediacy after 9/11, the government's message was to be alert, to say something. But I think the bigger message after 9/11 was seeing how people came together. And I think post 9/11, the recognition that we were all American in some way, and to look past the differences. One of the amazing things about that first night, the night of 9/11, was seeing every member of Congress, Democrat, Republican, man, woman, coming together and singing patriotic songs on the Capitol steps together. And I think that message was lost as we had to become aware, alert, say something because we became distrustful. I think one of the bigger things about 9/11 is to realize that we do share a common bond, no matter how different we are, and that bond is being an American, and as an American, we owe something to that, to make it even better. What 9/11 tried to do was tear us apart, but what it really has shown is that many people came together to make us even better, and I think that's a message we all need to take.
I would have to say also, like I just said, cherish every moment that you have, but also just to be kind to people. You never know what they're going through. You never know what's on their mind, and I feel like a simple conversation could just change everything. So be kind to everyone and cherish every moment you have.
From that event, I just think it's just you learn your history and just understand that a lot of people lost their lives that day. A lot of firefighters, a lot of police officers trying to save other people. So I guess the message from that is just learn your history and just understand exactly what happened, why it happened, and just try to make the best of it.
Definitely don't take your freedom for granted, and just when you see people that are in uniform, whether it's a soldier or a public servant, such as a fireman or a police officer, just give them the respect that they deserve, and they're the real heroes. People out in the entertainment industry, those aren't the real heroes. Real heroes are the people that are making stuff happen on the ground, that are the ones that are protecting our freedoms.
Oh goodness. I mean, there were souls involved. Personally, I'm a Christian. It's just one of those things that consider your life and who you are, and love your families, and are you right with God? As a Christian, that would be my message. So,
I think that we shouldn't profile people. We shouldn't profile people based on people that have hurt us. Just because someone looks a certain way or practices a certain religion doesn't mean that they're bad. They might just be different, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're trying to hurt us.
Please send any announcements you wish to be aired at least 48 hours in advance to ahsmassmedia3126@gmail.com.
Have an awesome day, and remember, roar Tigers.